Hello, Greater Life family, and everyone else tuning in. I am Zakina Stewart, First Lady of Greater Life Church, and this is.
I'm Vanessa Jackson, member of Greater Life Church.
And today we're here to talk to you about the upcoming elections because we want you to be well informed. Me, having worked for the government for almost 20 years, and Vanessa.
Yes, I work in the political realm. I'm been with the city of San Diego, working in politics for the last 12 years.
So we just want to give you a little bit of information. I have a little book that I've had for over 8 years that I carry with me literally everywhere. I keep it in the glove compartment of my box. And what is it? It's the Constitution of the United States of America. I know it sounds silly, but I have that much of a love for our government. And what I want you to know about this upcoming election is a bit of information. We don't want you to be misinformed. We don't want you to get fake news, and we don't want you to have incorrect facts when you go into the voting booth this November. In the Constitution, actually before the Constitution, there was this thing called the Declaration of Independence, Vanessa, and we know it because what does it say? We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. And when we hear this, oftentimes we kind of scoff because we know that we have not been created equal. But I keep this not just because I love America, but because this is the playbook that America chose. And I know in order to win and to move forward in America, I need to know what it's founded upon. And there's a second part to the Declaration of Independence. It says, whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government. So how do we do that? We vote.
Exactly. This is our opportunity to exercise our right. By the way, a right that our forefathers died for. We were hosed, beat, thrown in jail, and so now we have a very wonderful opportunity to be able to vote. So we should definitely take advantage of that.
We have to take advantage of it. And we've had a lot of misinformation that we do not have the ability to change what's going on in America, that our votes do not count. Vanessa, our votes count so much that they hire
Absolutely.
people that look like us to make us think it. And we'll take screenshots off of Facebook. We'll take news sources that are not reputable, and we will run with it, and we will discourage each other from voting.
It's true.
We think that we can't change anything, so we just give up.
Right.
And that's just not the truth.
Right, absolutely. We can't give up because your vote is your voice. And so each of us can't be the mayor, each of us can't be the governor or the president, but your voice definitely matters. And so we know what we've gone through the last 3.5 years. And so it's up to us to decide if we want 4 more years of the same or if we want to see change. So that's what we're here just to drop a little knowledge on you to make sure that when you do go into the poll that you're well informed.
I want to give a little bit more encouragement to individuals who don't really know the whole process of voting, who are discouraged about the choices that we have. I'm not persuaded by one side or definitely not the other side. Part of the Constitution says that in order to form a more perfect union, see, Vanessa, our founding fathers in the United States knew that the union was not perfect.
Right.
So they knew this, but they wanted us to have the same rights. Our elders who voted and who died for the right to vote and who came out of slavery to vote, and people in the civil rights era, they knew that we had an imperfect union. But they looked at it almost like a chess table. We must take a step forward in this direction in order to make this move.
Right.
We must vote for this person in order to make this move.
Absolutely.
So we know that we won't have a perfect candidate, but we must choose a candidate that's going to further our agenda so that we can move along in America. And it's definitely possible if we come together.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Lady Z, thank you for pointing those things out. They are so very important. And we know that I'm a news junkie. First of all, it's a part of my job, so I have to be informed, but I've just always loved the news. But I understand that we have lives. We're dealing with the pandemic. A lot of you are parents, you're homeschooling, you're working from home. So we understand that a lot of people don't have time to just sit and absorb all of the news
Yes.
all the time like we possibly do. So that's another reason why we felt it was really, really important that we come to a platform that we know you're going to check out, Greater Life, and just to get a little bit more information to help you to make an informed decision.
Information is key. And
Yes.
so you have a few voter information facts that's going to help the people who are looking in on us today to be well informed
Right.
and to be ready for early voting and come
Yes.
November the 4th.
Absolutely. Early voting, as a matter of fact, early voting has already started. I'm glad you said that. The mail in ballots, every registered voter, if you're registered to vote, and if you haven't, you still have time, every registered voter will get a mail in ballot. You don't have to put a special request. I got mine yesterday.
I got mine yesterday yesterday as well.
Absolutely.
Now we know we have viewers that are not in the state of California, so all of them will not have that privilege.
Right.
But if you're getting your absentee ballot or you're getting your early voting ballot in the mail, one thing that I want people to know is please pay close attention to how you're filling it out, because we know right now that there is a wide effort of voter suppression, right?
Right, correct.
They want to throw out our ballots and our votes because they're so important. So take the time to check, double check, and maybe even get a trusted person to look at your ballot if you're going to mail it in or drop it off early, because we
Right.
want every vote to count and to stay in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like we said, early voting has started, so you can, as soon as you fill it out, you can put it in the mail right away. You don't have to wait till Election Day on November 3rd. You can complete your ballot, like Lady Z said, make sure it's complete correctly, and you can put it in the mail now. You don't have to wait. And so, as Lady Z said, what I wanted to do was just to give you some key points, some things for you to think about when you are listening to the candidates. We know we have the vice presidents are going to be debating tonight. We heard President Trump and Vice President Biden, they debated last week, if you want to call that a debate, and then they have another one supposedly next week. But as you're listening to them, here's some things, some points I wanted to just bring to the forefront for you to consider when you make your decision when you're going to the ballot. For example, how do you feel about police reform? Do you want your sons and daughters, your husbands and wives, to have to be afraid every time they're stopped by the police? I mean, we know as black people in America that from the beginning and up until now, 5 minutes ago, that we're not always treated fairly by the police. So you want to look at the candidate. What is their views on police reform? Do they even think we need police reform? Healthcare. That's a really important topic. Were you going to say something,
It's
Lady
so
Z?
important with police reform. I wanted to put in, I want people to know, a lot of times we think about presidential elections, the national elections, but police reform happens oftentimes on a local and state
Yes,
level.
yes.
So if we're not voting for the right judges
Right.
and the right district attorneys, those are the ones who you're sitting in front of that's going to make a decision.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
if you don't get the right person at the lower levels, that's who you're sitting in front of.
Yes.
So you want to consider the people who have a similar experience as you, who may understand where you come from, because
Right.
oftentimes we get judges and people that are not like us, that don't understand us, and they will throw the book at us
Exactly.
and not at someone else. So it's so important to vote on a local level and not just every 4 years nationally.
Right, right.
But and be careful to, again, who you're filling out your ballot for, because we have to get people in the right positions so that we can get people in Supreme Court positions,
Exactly.
Judge positions,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Thank you, Lady Z. You touched on the point that I have to come up, but that is so critical. Right now, we're going through where we're going to have a new Supreme Court justice. And we know the president, whoever is the president at the time of a vacancy, they're the one that gets to nominate for who's going to be the next Supreme Court justice. The decisions that these people make on our behalf are sometimes life and death.
Life
And
and
they depend on we're depending on each other to make the right decision. So like who you vote for mayor, who you vote for governor, all these positions, as Lady Z said, are very, very important, because they may only be a council member now, but eventually they're going to run for governor, for senator, and maybe even president. So it's really, really important that you not just vote for the president, but for the other down ballot candidates also. And then, Lady Z, another topic that's real big is health care. Think about health care. Do you have it? Is it affordable? Do you want to see Obamacare go away? So this is something you want to consider when you're choosing your candidate. Social Security. Are you looking forward to collecting Social Security? I'm looking forward to collecting it like real soon, like in a year or two.
Well, I have a while, but I would love to collect it now.
Exactly. So I mean, so it's in jeopardy. I mean, hopefully, ladies, hopefully it'll still be available by the time that you're ready to
So,
collect. But who we vote for president, who we put in these other positions, is going to directly determine whether there's Social Security. And I know after paying into it for pretty much my whole life, I'm gonna be pretty upset if it's time for me and they say, there's no money there. So this is something else that you need to consider when you're choosing your candidate. Another important topic: gun control. How do you feel about gun control? We hear about these mass shootings in schools and in the shopping malls, and people want for the assault rifles to be okay and all of that. Well, what's your opinion on that? You have to listen to the candidates and decide who feels the way you do as far as gun control,
yes, yes.
right? Another topic: tax reform. Okay, do you think we need tax reform, or are you happy with the way things are going? Have you noticed that it seems like the rich get richer, but then the poor and the middle class, we kind of stay stagnant?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one. With the president supposedly paying in $750 in taxes,
Yes.
and we people like us may be paying in much
Yes.
more than him. We don't know the system like him. They create a convoluted
Exactly.
system, but we have the power as the people
Right.
to change this. But we have to get out and vote, and we have
Absolutely.
to get in the right people to help us to make these changes.
Right. Absolutely. It's so important. How do you feel about a candidate who refers to the KKK and the white supremacists as fine people? Do you consider them fine people? If you consider them fine people, then you cast your vote for who you agree with. But these are just some of the things that you have to think about when you go to the poll. And I encourage you also to talk to your family and friends about the election, especially our younger people and our first-time voters. Like I said, I know everybody is not as engaged in it as we are. People have their lives to live, but it's just our responsibility, especially to our young people, to make sure that they're informed and to at least direct them to where they can get more information.
That's a category of voters who, if they turned out, they could have the biggest voice in what's going on. So the young voters are very important. And young voters, I know you're being told this based off of what's on social media, but your voice matters, and literally you could turn this whole country around by showing up and showing out with your vote.
Absolutely, absolutely. I remember I couldn't wait till I turned 18 so I could vote. It was just a really huge deal. So just take it serious, because it really is. It's life and death. It's literally life and death. And then again, something else I want you to consider is, we live in California, and California is wildfire country. Okay, well, one of the candidates wants to take money away from California that we need to fight the wildfires. Well, this to me makes absolutely no sense, but this is just something that you need to know when you're going into the poll. We know that the pandemic has affected many people in many ways, but I'm blessed to where I still have a job. And I know we were talking before we started, and you're blessed to where you're still working as well. But many people lost their job, or maybe they're on a lesser income, and so at one point they were getting an extra $600 on their income, on their unemployment, to help subsidize. Well, you need to look at which candidate thinks that $600 is too much. They feel like,
Yes.
even though they only paid $750, for the whole year, $750 for the whole year, they don't want to even give you $600 for unemployment. So just one other thing to think about when you're looking at the candidate.
Yeah, it's very important. Very
Immigration. Okay, immigration. What are your views on immigration? Do you agree with young children being separated from their parents? Some of these babies are still nursing and they're separated from their parents. Some of them never even return to the proper parent, locked in cages. This is something else you need to consider, is the candidate's views on immigration. At one point, every one of us, our ancestors, was an immigrant.
America is an immigrant country.
It's an immigrant country.
And many of those people who were sent back to their home country never ever lived in their home country except for maybe birth, and they were here 20, 30 years
Right.
and sent back to a place that they have
Never
no
been.
family, no one, and It's
Right.
awful
That
experience.
would just
Yeah.
be like if they were trying to send me back to Africa. I've
That's
never been to
exactly.
Africa. I mean, I know my descendants are from Africa, and I'm really proud of that. I hope to go someday. But it's the same difference. I mean, and then locking these babies up in cages. So that's something you want to look at too when you're choosing your candidate. Okay, what are your thoughts about money being taken out from our communities for libraries, parks, Boys and Girls Club, things that enhance our community, things that help to build up our children? They're constantly taking money away for these type of things. So we want to look at that not only with the presidential, but when you look at your local candidates, who's supporting, District 4. We happen to be, our church is in District 4. And I know we're all spread out. We live in parts of the district, but this is something that should be near and dear to our heart as
Yes.
well. As well. And then you want to always pick the candidate that reflects your views. Um, Now, you might want to know, what can you do to affect change? And I'm glad you asked. We've already talked about it. You need to register to vote. If you have not already registered, the deadline is October 15th. This is October 7th. So you still have time. You still have time to
Yes.
register to vote.
Yes. Registration is very important, but it's not too late, depending on the state that you're in.
And also, this is something that I just learned within the last couple days, that you can vote in person as early as October 31st. So I don't know if that's new or if I just was behind the eight ball, but yeah, you actually, and me personally, I like to go to the poll. When I think about my great great grandparents that weren't able to vote, or they did all kind of stupid stuff like make them guess how many jelly beans is in the jar, anything to suppress the vote. When I think about what our people went through to be able to vote, I just love showing up for them. I'm showing up for all the people that got beat and couldn't vote. So that's just my personal preference. But absolutely, it's just wonderful to have the privilege to be able to vote by mail. But yeah, you can actually go in person to the register of voters as early as October 31st. That's a good day to remember because that's the day they celebrate Halloween. So if you're going to be out of town, if you forgot to mail in your ballot, or you don't trust mail-in ballot, or whatever the reason, you can actually go and vote as early as October 31st at the register of voters.
Many places also have actual mail-in ballot drop boxes, as well as you can check the system to see if your mail-in ballot was received.
Very good. And so also, if you have questions, you can call the Register of Voters. There's also the website. I'll just hold up the card here real quick and you can refer back to it. But if you have any questions, if you're not sure if you're registered, there's a way they can track that. And there's also, some people are concerned about, is my ballot really going to get there? Is my ballot going to count? There's a way that you can actually track your ballot where they can tell you that it's received or not. So this is the phone number to the Register of Voters. This is also the website. So please, 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 we implore you. This is very, very serious. I think that this is one of the most serious elections I know of my lifetime. And so
It's definitely of my lifetime as well. And I think what happened is that we took the previous election before our current president so serious, and we were so high that we got a little bit apathetic, and we just can't ever do that. It's so important that we constantly vote, again, at the local, at the state,
yes,
and at the national level.
absolutely.
And another thing is that as Christian, oftentimes we have conflicts about who we should vote for based off of how we view our religion and what things that they're standing up for versus
Right.
women's rights, abortion rights. But again, there's not going to be any perfect candidate,
Exactly.
but what is about, you will know them by their fruits.
Yes. Yes, there's not going to be anybody that you're going to agree 100% with.
Yeah.
Although you don't agree 100% with your husband or your wife.
No.
You don't agree 100% with your children, with your best friend.
Yeah.
So like Lady Z said, don't look for somebody that's going to line up with every single thing, because that's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
Yeah. So I've enjoyed this talk.
I enjoyed this talk too. You gave us so many important facts and voter information. I think that we have enough information to make a well-informed choice. We know that we have to understand the game book that we're playing by, because there's not
Right.
a perfect candidate, but we need to make
Right.
a move on this chessboard so that we can get our agenda, our issues, our community taken care of.
Yes.
Because, we matter in this country. We, as the Constitution said before, we are all created equal. And I know, like Auntie Maxine said, I'm trying to get my 4 years back from, what we just went through.
Right,
So
right.
please, please, please take this
Please.
very serious. Get informed, get out to vote.
Yes.
And thank you so
Do your
much
part. Thank
for
you
your
for
attention.
listening. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Wear your mask and wash your hands. 6 feet apart.